Leaving the land that bred him felt like both a relief and a burden. On the one hand, he was escaping all the chains that had held him hostage. The bills, divorce, papers, accidents, and people. On the other hand, he was entering a foreign world, leaving his daughter behind in the hopes of giving her another future. His first day was not as eventful as he anticipated. His flight landed as it was supposed to. His Iqama was easily accepted at customs, as was expected. His company's van picked him up at 6, as was promised. The most eventful thing to happen to him that day was the discovery that in the back of his house, which sat wedged between two identical houses, rested a small yet industrious garden, complete with carrots, tomatoes, and even a banana tree. He had never owned anything like it. He had to adjust to the whiff of kahwa in the morning. He wasn't used to seeing men dressed in crisp white thobes and women donning black cloaks that carried the breeze when it passed. He had to get used to the rather chaotic driving that seemed to follow no rules except those set by nature itself. Even the sound of Arabic and the call to prayer that rang through his ears were foreign and harsh, yet inexplicably calming. There was something about this place that both frightened and excited him. But it was always within the compound that he felt safe and at home. He never quite understood why, until a colleague announced loudly one afternoon after an exceptionally hot, frustrating day, thank God for this place, my own little America." That's when he noticed it. The Disney-like houses, the out-of-place green lawns that grew quickly next to piles of sand, the recreation center, complete with a pool and a bowling alley and a restaurant that served burgers, and a box stereo that blasted Michael Jackson. This was America, but in Saudi Arabia. They were all Americans living inside a bubble created for themselves, both consciously and subconsciously, that let them live as they would stateside. There was no need to leave the compound's gates unless you wanted more groceries than the commissary could provide, or perhaps just a new pair of shoes. Some residents would venture miles away from the compound to explore the surrounding area, including the shores of the Red Sea. Even then, however, they traveled with other Americans and found places where they could drink and listen to a little 80s rock after scuba diving. It was a world that was entirely fabricated, imported, and isolated. Yet this is how they dealt with their foreign environment, one that at times was so different from their own that they never felt welcomed, albeit thanks primarily to their own inability or unwillingness to step outside of this bubble. They still chased the American dream, just inside the walls of the compound. When his daughter joined him in the kingdom almost a year later, she was the one who pushed him past his comfort zone. She attended school with kids who didn't live inside the fortified American bubble. She grew up in a world that was not the same as her father's. Although this mysterious country still felt foreign to him, to her it was home. It was where she developed into herself, made lifelong friends, and found her passions. For him, it was merely a resting point on the way to his new future. A future that ultimately existed back in America. When it was time to return there, his daughter was heartbroken. This difference in youth experience and realities would ultimately create tension between father and daughter. He was ready to settle and live once more in the land of his forefathers, while she couldn't have been more restless. America was only desired as a name etched onto her passport. It was the rest of the world that she reached for. He wanted to make a new life for his children, and ultimately gave his daughter an uncontrollable zest for the world. Her future lies thousands of miles away from his. From the moment he got to Saudi Arabia, and until the moment he left, he only felt at ease inside the fortified concrete walls of the compound, among the American cluster within. He rebuilt his home in a country that he felt never accepted him, and one in which he never accepted. But it accepted his daughter, and she embraced it. She is a part of a generation that he will struggle to understand. A generation of wanderers, migrants, and global citizens, souls that feel home isn't in an American suburb, but a corner of the world that they may never actually discover.